Hello again, Conte. Just gonna speed through this opening because I'm just buffing up and grabbing stones to flint shot with. But yeah, this is a Heroics Greatsword run. I wanted to redo my crit draw video, or not redo the video, but just now that it's been a lot longer since Electron's come out, we've gotten a better idea of its moveset and all that, and I'm better at the fight. I wanted to redo the run, and so I was doing it, and I got a time of around 8:30 or so, which is a pretty good time, and it didn't take too many attempts. I could definitely have pushed that down further if I kept going with it. But I was doing it live on Twitch, and we kind of agreed that it would be pretty boring just to do another crit draw greatsword run. So we decided we'd spice it up a little bit with by making it heroics. So yeah, I'm running guts on this set. I'll show the set at the end. I'm running the guts charm, and you'll see it now. I'm gonna activate heroics and try and stick with it the entire hunt. It's a little bit weird. This was I didn't have too many attempts. This was still fairly early on, so I was still working things out. I changed my set a little bit to like not have to tank a car and do other things, which didn't actually make a difference in the end. By the way, I'm mega potioning to get to within guts proc range. Yeah, the set is a little bit suboptimal for what I was intending to go for in the end, but it's not a huge deal regardless. I should have just tanked the car or whatever. But anyway, it's a very standard crit draw greatsword run. I don't know how much commentary I'm going to do over it. Probably not for the entire video, but basically it's just a regular run. But with all the new openings that we're good at finding, and with all the sort of timings a little bit more tightly wound. I'm using Frostcraft, as you can see, Frostcraft Greatsword. I'm not using TCS. First of all, a lot of the good TCS openings on Ice Electron, which is what was there at the time, are the downwards Ice Breath and stuff, and you kind of just got to tank through the damage for that, which obviously doesn't really work with Heroics. Or either that or you got to pray for really good RNG on the move AI, and that's not a... I'll save that for the other speedrunners to do. But yeah, so we're sticking to crit draw greatsword because it's just a little bit. It's also more fun for me, to be honest with you. It's kind of my go-to style. I'm running a fire Safi greatsword. You'll see that it takes me a little bit of time to actually get the proc. It's not particularly easy to do with greatsword unless you stack a lot of element on the build, and I didn't because I wanted to get as much attack as possible. But yeah, this is basically just going to be a very standard crit draw greatsword running. So I'm going to be playing a little bit aggressively with openings to try and capitalize wherever I can, but I'm also going to be playing a little bit more safely in some other regards. Like you'll see here, 2 rolls instead of 1, even though I probably could have just sheathed. Because I want to do my very best to avoid damage as much as possible. I'm sure you can probably guess why. But yeah, Evasion Mantle and Temporal Mantle are both pretty handy. It feels really good to be landing like 1700 damage on a level 3 unsheathing attack. Or 14 in that case, but yeah, it's kind of crazy just how much damage you can do with crit draw greatsword on Electron's hit zones. Of course, TCS is infinitely stronger, probably doing like double damage or whatever. It's also weird, like I don't know if I'm close to the damage cap or what, but I've noticed that I also don't know why I did that. I don't know why I tenderized. It's a waste of sharpness and a Frostcraft bar. Yeah, TCS is probably somewhere in the region twice as strong because I don't feel like I'm getting much out of Heroics. Yeah, Feline Heroics is supposed to give me a 35% damage boost, but I noticed that numbers were like nowhere near that. Like as I said, my run without Heroics was like 15 seconds slower than this. But the thing is, like, you know, you gotta post the Heroics on for that big dick no hit energy. You know what I mean? Even though it's probably I don't know, it's more fun this way. Yeah, so we got the Heroics one. I don't think it took too long, but it also wasn't easy either because Electron does have a few moves that it can pop you with. The Ice Breath especially was a bit of a troublesome one. Also, of course, we missed the flint shot. If it Ice Breaths at the wrong time, then you are just screwed, essentially. If it knocks you down, puts an Ice Breath over you, well, I guess you won't be getting knocked down when you're playing Heroics, because if you got knocked down, you probably died. But yeah, like that move, for example, the two swipes can be quite damaging. You'll see me go for the occasional swipe on the leg. While I was practicing this run, I was finding it quite difficult to reach the elemental threshold in time, and so every now and then I throw in a little hit to the front legs where possible, just to obviously get a little bit of damage, but also get a little bit of elemental damage because its front legs are better hit zones than its horns for that. So yeah, that's the reason you'll see me sporadically pop the front legs with the level 1 unsheath. I don't do it too frequently. Again, I was still sort of working out the routing for this run. I'd like to give it the shot in the future, but I wanted to move on to longsword. Speaking of which, we've done the longsword run. I think it's like 8.5 minutes, 7.5 minutes, something like that. I can't quite remember, but I'll be posting about that shortly too. I know Electron's a little bit of old news, especially because Kushala is coming out. Don't worry, I'm working on some stuff about Kushala. Also, right here, I almost accidentally killed myself. That fire, if you're not aware, does damage over time while you're standing on it. Very, very small amount, but when you've procced guts and you're at 1 health, yeah, it's enough to kill you. So you probably don't want to get popped by that one. This is my punishment for the elemental topple. If you're fast enough, you can get 3 level 3s off. Although occasionally I'll need to stop it for a level 2. You do need to reposition away from the head, though, to pop him while he's doing his taunt here. And it does depend on where exactly you're standing and how close you are to it. Like if you elemental topple it near a wall, for example, it'll land closer to you. I guess, I mean, most of you have probably seen the original Crit Draw Greatsword build, because that one was fairly popular. So all of the openings are basically the same ones I'm taking here, but you'll see that I time them a little bit more tightly because I'm used to sort of seeing the tells in action, so I'm more likely to land like a... I say that just as I'm whiffing. But yeah, the run is mostly similar, except for the fact that I'm not punishing the downwards ice breath, and also I've gotten, like, for example, that punish there for the sweeping breath. I would often miss back when I was first playing, but now I've got a little bit more of a handle on it. You roll through and then you line up for straight on, and then you turn to the right a little bit. Oh, that's what I've been doing anyway. You'll see here, for example, I don't really want to go for the head because there's a chance you can spawn lightning right underneath him. So I release a little bit early so that I'm able to roll out of the way. You'll remember that if you're not playing heroics, my tutorial for that, also I whiff. The tutorial for that was to shoulder bash through if you see lightning coming underneath you, and otherwise go for like a level 3. But here, because I needed the elemental damage anyway, I was willing to go for it. Of course, the strong charges are... Oh, and by the way, the area that I was just standing there was completely safe, so that's the reason I didn't bother trying to release my attack early there. But yeah, the reason I'll go for strong charge every now and then is, even though it's a little bit of a waste of Frostcraft bar, I'm not really worried about sharpness. It's not like I'm using Master Touch or anything, and even though it's not going to crit, it's still a pretty nice amount of damage. It's probably the same as just doing a regular unsheath attack, so it's nice to throw it in there in the openings that are long enough. Now, another couple of things that are worth noting: I'm out of heroics now. I debated a little bit getting back into heroics, but and so you'll see me sort of take a little bit of purposeful damage, and I'm not healing and stuff like that. Speaking of not healing, I do not have health augment on this weapon, obviously, because, you know, heroics. This is what I was talking about, by the way, releasing that a little bit early to make sure that I'm able to roll if I need to get away from lightning. There have been a couple of whiffs in this hunt. You know, I don't think it's possible for me as a player to get this playstyle. Like, if I was using TCS, it'd probably be possible. I don't think I can get this playstyle, crit draw playstyle, down to before the first Nova at all. You can see it still takes me a minute after the Nova, so I'd need to, yeah, I don't know. I don't see it happening without like some sort of godly AI. Also, I don't remember if I pointed it out, but I got a KO while it was in the air. I'm not sure what I was talking about. I was probably rambling about something inane while it happened. But yeah, usually I smoke bomb to knock down Alatreon, not knock down, but to bring down Alatreon from the ground, from the air. However, because I've done this run a few times and I'm running Frostfang, I was aware that a KO was coming fairly close, and so I thought I'd take some pop shots at its head whenever possible, and work towards getting the KO the old-fashioned way, just to dunk it, so I didn't have to waste time with smokes. I'm not 100% sure if that's worth doing. I'm actually not sure how the aerial dunk the top, because I know a lot of monsters have shorter topple animations while they're dunked. I actually don't know about it for Alatreon. But yeah, you'll see just as Evasion Mantle is coming back, I'm about to finish the hunt, so I don't really get a huge amount of use out of it. Maybe a single point of Tool Specialist might have actually been helpful. But, and I got hit. I think I was panicking at this point, to be honest, because the run was probably one of the cleanest I'd had all stream, and I really didn't want to mess it up. But yeah, run is over. I guess I did commentate the whole way through. Listen, because I have a background as a streamer. Speaking of which, follow me on Twitch. I can't help but just talk while gameplay is showing. Yeah, there's not a huge much to talk about. I'll go over the set in a little bit more detail, but it's very typical stuff. You can see I've got heroics as my food skill, feline heroics, and I've got a couple of elemental augments on the Safi weapon. Those are what I needed to get the elemental topple in time, basically. But yeah, okay. So we've shown the set. So let's look at it in more detail. So the first thing you'll notice is Velkhana Divinity on the Greatsword, despite having 4 pieces of Velkhana on the set. As I said, this was kind of an on-the-cuff thing we did on stream. Generally speaking, when I do these kinds of things, they're just sort of on the spur of the moment. I don't spend a huge amount of time building sets because that's not really entertaining to watch. Obviously, I could have dropped Velkhana Divinity, but then I would have to re-roll it again for my other sets that use the Fire Greatsword. And if you spend any time rolling for Safi upgrades, you'll know that that's an exercise in futility. So I kept the Velkhana Divinity on, and I didn't really want to mess around. If I was going to improve this run, I would change out another piece of Rime Guard, probably the waist, for like, I don't know, Kulv, or, well, I'm not using peak performance, but like Braki, or just any piece that has better skill efficiency, essentially, because Rime Guard generally has really poor skill efficiency. Alternatively, of course, I could have just gotten an objective improvement of 10 true roll by rolling attack on the Greatsword. But anyway, that's not so interesting. Let's talk about the skills. So there are the obvious skills: Crit Draw, I'm running Focus, you know, because it's a Crit Draw Greatsword playstyle, and then some DPS stuff like Crit Boost and Attack Boost and that kind of stuff. Slightly less common on my Crit Draw builds, I guess I'll talk about them. We've got obviously 3 points of evasion window, which are quite nice for just helping me not get killed, given that I'm at 1 health the entire time. We've got 3 points of fire attack. I found that with the 2 element augments on the Greatsword were enough for me to reach the topple fairly consistently. And other than that, it's Guts, obviously, for the heroics proc, and everything else is fairly standard DPS stuff. I have 2 attack augments and 1 element augment on the greatsword. I think I showed that a little bit earlier because again, no health augment on a heroics run obviously. And I don't have my Palico with me for the same reason. It would sporadically heal me, even when it wasn't using the healing bug. I think the Coral, one of the Coral buffs, like has the chance to heal you or something. And so I turned off the Palico just so I could better focus aggro on myself regardless. But yeah, I think that's all I really have to say. I hope you found it interesting. I hope the heroics crit draw greatsword sort of takes you back to reminiscent of the old world. But yeah, I hope you have a lovely day. Take it easy. Bye-bye.